We have got to make sure that our opposition and everything that we're against, and obviously there is a lot to be passionately against right now, but it has to travel with a clearer picture of what we are for. Because there are a lot of voters who, for whatever reason, and Democrats might be shocked by this, but for whatever reason, did not find any of the things they've seen so far about Donald Trump to be disqualifying. And what that means is there's something else that, it doesn't mean they necessarily loved him, but they need to see something more.
Hey, Buttigieg has a point. The Democratic Party is at a crossroads. Simply opposing Trump isn't enough anymore. We saw that in 2024, when millions of voters just decided to stay home. Many feel that the Democratic Party have just lost touch with working-class American values. Again, we saw this in the last election, where we had Hispanic American voters going far to the right of where they previously had been.
This is not a question of accommodating things that we don't agree with or watering down or changing our values. It is a question of making very clear to everybody how your everyday life is different if we're in charge compared to if they're in charge. What your life could be like if wages went up the way that we propose that they be raised. What we would do with the money if we successfully stopped the tax cuts for the wealthy that are at the core of Donald Trump's economic agenda. What we think could happen in a country where we had paid family leave and some of the unfinished business of fixing our health care system. It's not just a matter of preserving the Affordable Care Act, as important as that is. It's going the next step to make sure everybody can get and afford health care. All of these things that need to happen, that needs to be as clear a picture as our response to the authoritarian tendencies of this administration. Because the truth is, proto-authoritarian governments don't just come out of nowhere. We would not be in this situation if the government, the economy, and the politics of our country were healthy. They've been unhealthy for a long time.
Path forward can't just be about opposing Trump and fighting what he says. We've tried that already, and we saw the results in the last election. No, the way forward needs to be different. And that's going to include talking to American families at their kitchen table, seeing what it means when Democrats are in charge for their wallets, for the economy. Can they afford their groceries? Can they afford their gas? And I'm not talking about just laying it out in big economic policy platforms. I'm talking about going one-on-one on the ground level and making it make sense to the everyday working class American.
Before we had the rigged election, to give out a brand new gorgeous system to one company that was going to do the whole thing, one of the best companies in the world that you know very well. You know, there are 3 or 4 of them that do it. And when they took over, Buttigieg, who has no clue, you know, he drives to work on his bicycle with his, in all fairness, with his husband on the back, which is a nice, loving relationship. But he didn't have a clue. This guy didn't have a clue. And he's actually a contender for president. Between him and Crockett, you can have that party.
Much like his campaign, very little substance about what he will actually do for the American people. But he does say that it'll be different. And Americans have shown that they want different. And interestingly enough, Pete's message sounds similar to someone else's very popular message. Take a listen.
So many people who are less well off in your country voted and will probably vote again for Donald Trump.
I'll tell you exactly why. Because they are looking at the government, they're looking at the Democratic Party and saying, I can't afford health care. My kid can't afford to go to college. Everything being equal, my daughter is going to have a lower standard of living than I do. What are you doing for me? You're not doing really much. Trump is coming along. He is an atypical politician. He wants to get rid of all of that stuff. Why not? Maybe I think he's a little crazy. Maybe I don't agree with him on this, but at least not part of the old-fashioned political establishment. So that has an appeal. Bottom line here is the way to beat Trump is to say, yeah, you want change, we're going to give you change. But it's not based on racism, it's not based on xenophobia. It's a change that says we're going to create an economy for you, not just for billionaires.
For decades, Senator Bernie Sanders pretty much stood alone when it came to championing economic justice and reform. But now, after the 2024 wake-up call, we have the Democratic Party rising stars like Pete Buttigieg echoing his message, calling for more concern on wages, health care, economic justice. When Senator Bernie Sanders talked about corporate power, the Democrats pretty much kept him at arm's length. But now, they're listening. And it's not just him.
I believe we have a compilation of some sound taken from a recent focus group of swing voters in Michigan who supported President Trump in the most recent election.
Regret isn't enough anymore, and neither is simply opposing Trump. Moving forward, the Democrats are going to need concrete policies and plans that speak to the lives of everyday Americans so that we have no one sitting out next election.